Unfiltered, episode 58. I think this is going to be the start of the 2-week stretches of these podcasts returning. Marlins news about to ramp up, I would say, big time with spring training right around the corner. We have Media Day coming up as well. Isaac, how we doing? My friend co-host. I'm excited to do this one. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to hear from the fans. I think we've been wanting to do that for a while. And I think we've grown enough to where people would actually reply, and we were correct. We had a lot of replies.
Yeah, I'm very excited for I think it's our second Mailbag episode. And it's around the time where it's arguably the most exciting time to be a baseball fan, whether it's of the Miami Marlins or of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Creeping up on the day where pitchers and catchers report, it's fan fest time. You're going to see full squad. You're going to hear from the president of baseball operations. You're going to hear from the chairman and owner, Bruce Sherman. And it's a lot of content heading your way in early to mid-February up until opening day. And then you have 6 full months of regular season baseball. So aside from October, this has got to be the most exciting time to like the game of baseball.
100%. As always, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to follow us wherever you listen to this podcast and give it a 5-star review. Alrighty, let's get it going. NRIs. There were, I believe, 24 of them. I think this is something that we were actually looking forward to, just seeing the amount of young players that Miami acquired, seeing who actually made it to be an NRI, who didn't. Seems like there weren't many surprises. I think the only one that was a little notable was Miami signing Albert Amora Jr. to a minor league deal. Highly a native, was with the Cubs in 2016 when they won the World Series. He didn't play in 2023, did play in 2024, but with the Arizona Diamondbacks at their AAA level in Reno. The PCL, the very hitter-friendly PCL, I think, is what we should note. But again, this is another nice depth piece. Plays center field, plays it very well, in fact. And it's some competition for whoever, for the guys who were vying for an outfield spot. And he finds himself pretty high up in that competition just with his experience and ability to play all 3 corner outfield spots. I mean, he enters now as the position player with the most service time, passing Jesus Sanchez. So I think it never hurts to have experience in the clubhouse or in spring training. We saw with Casali and Trey Mancini last season. And I think the Marlins are going to get that with Albert Amora this season. And if he has a nice spring, he'll make the opening day roster.
Yeah, he debuted with the Cubs all the way back in 2016. To me, it felt like a little bit of like a superfluous addition in the sense that I guess you have Derek Hill. He's a defensive-minded center fielder. Albert Amora is. You sort of have Derek Hill already on your 40-man roster. You have Javier Sanoja. You have Dane Myers, who all figure to get a lot of reps in center field. Kyle Stowers even figures to be in there as well. And someone else who we've sort of forgotten about because the end of the year hurt is Victor Mason Jr. He, to me, profiles a little bit more in the corner, but I think the Marlins like him in center field as well. So I'm curious to see if he is going to break camp with the club, Albert Almora Jr. But if it were up to me, this guy hasn't played in the last 2 seasons in Major League Baseball. I liked what I saw from Derek Hill. Derek Hill's not going to turn many heads or anything, but he was really phenomenal in center field. Has a little bit of power. Almora does not. So, but regardless, it is good to have some depth piece, especially in a position like center field where any team could have as much as you need.
Yeah, and I think aside from a couple names, I think almost every guy on this list will have an opportunity to break camp, and that's just more. Yeah, I mean, a couple guys obviously not, but a lot of them for sure. I mean, with how young this team is and is projected to be, I mean, Anthony Bender just turned 30 today, and we're recording this on Monday, February 3rd, and he's the only player who's 30 years old on the Marlins, on the projected 26-man roster. So there will be opportunities for a lot of these guys, and we'll see what happens. Who kind of stands out here, Isaac, with an opportunity that you think, okay, this guy will definitely have an opportunity to break camp?
Well, what stands out first is that there's not a ton of experience on this list of NRIs. Usually in years past, you have some guys that really are at the tail end of their career, granted, but have a lot of major league experience, sort of like Almora Jr. Albert Amora Jr. and Freddie Tarnick are the only two that have any major league experience whatsoever. Usually you have like a Matt Kemp type guy, or you even have like Kirk Casali like the year before, but there's none of those this year. So like you said, Kevin, a very young major league roster, very young 40-man roster, and a relatively young list of NRIs. But to me, someone that does not stick out, but to me has somewhat of an outside shot at making the team. You always look at a pitcher, in my opinion. You look at Robinson Pena, I think he's at like more than 200 innings between AA and AAA. not great numbers, but he's just someone where if you look at the Marlins rotation as of now, aside after the first three and Sandy, assuming he's healthy, Weathers and Cabrera, you have Max Meyer and Valente Belloso. That's what Fangraphs at least projects, and I don't think you can exactly count on them to be good in spring training and to make your opening day rotation. Maybe Pena gets put in there, and then look a couple of bullpen pieces. You look at Matt Pusher, you look at Austin Roberts, maybe getting an opportunity, but usually it's the pitchers that have an outside chance at breaking camp. But yeah, no one on the position player side aside from Almora Jr. do I think has a realistic shot at making the ball club. Maybe if some outfielders get hurt, Jacob Marcy or Martorella, both who ended the year pretty hot, but not to me, unfortunately, no.
Well, I mean, you look at the position player side, and I'm just going to mention Ronnie Simon. This guy has been in AAA for the last couple of years, and he's been pretty good. I mean, he can play the outfield, play the infield, a little bit of everywhere. And if he has a nice spring, I mean, look, they took Vidal Brujan off this roster, and I thought this was like a similar dude, obviously better player, but I think Ronnie Simon definitely has an opportunity. Unfortunately, I think you're right. Outside of that, it's going to be hard for a lot of these guys to crack the roster. I don't think they're going to put a Joe Mack at the major league level right away. He would have to go on a very, very good run in spring training. But I think you look at the pitchers, and you're going to have, they're going to be open spots in that bullpen. There's guys already that are obvious locks, but I think it could go down at least to what we saw last season, where we went to Miami and there were still guys vying for a bullpen spot.
Yeah, I think that's going to be up for grabs. I mean, what they have, let's see, what we project to be in the Marlins opening day bullpen, from going from top to bottom, you have Fauché, closing, Tinoco, Bender, Cronin, Nardi are all locks. And then you have Veneziano, Xavier, and Curry. I think it's pretty much set, if you ask me, because a lot of those guys were Bendix specials, claimed off waivers or just signed, and they really sort of had underlying metrics that showed that they knew what they were doing. So I think Bendix likes those guys, but it's always good to have depth, like you said. And then the other section of the NRIs that jumps out to me are the catchers, because this is not a position that Miami has had a lot of luck in recently. And you have obviously Nick Fortes at the top, and you have Liam Hicks, the Rule 5 pick, who's expected to make the club, and Agustin Ramirez also on the 40-man. And then as far as NRIs go, you have Joe Mack, who I'm sure the team, who I know Peter Bendix is very excited about coming off the year he did after really stinking in 2023. And then someone who our minor league correspondents going to be very happy about is Ryan Ignafo. He just hit everywhere he was last year. And he's someone that I'm intrigued at, undersized, height-wise anyway. But I'm excited to see him hit against some major league pitching, and then to a lesser extent, Bennett Hostetler as well, the converted catcher. But it's a lot of decent catching options that are going to be in major league camp this year that I'm excited to see up close.
And you never know. I mean, you see an Augustin who all of a sudden ranks and shows some sort of improvements, and Liam Hicks kind of flops. I mean, you're going to try to, he's going to be someone who I think has the best chance out of that catching group to kind of force the front office's hand, man. And I know, I think it's a disservice not to mention him, but we have to mention Troy. He was listed as an outfielder. No one here, Eli put first/outfield, but he is listed as an outfielder on the Marlins post. So you never know. I mean, he went through most of camp last season. He had the ankle injury, which I wouldn't say screwed his chances over, but definitely kind of hurt whatever shot he did have at making the roster. But this is a guy similar to a Ronnie Simon who's been in the minor leagues for a very long time. And I mean, at some point, God, I mean, you hope this guy debuts. And I think that's about it. I mean, I think it's not a very flashy list by any means, because a lot of the guys who we're going to be expecting to see or excited to see already on the 40-man, like Davis and Los Santos, Adam Mazur, Jared Cerna, Dax Fulton's on the 40-man. So a lot of those guys are already on there. So this is not a sexy list by any means, but definitely some names that have a shot, especially as you mentioned, Isaac, the pitching has a good shot. And we're not even mentioning a Josh Simpson who did make it to the majors, just didn't pitch. So that's the guy who they were high on for a while until they did have to make room on that 40-man and designate him for assignment. But alrighty, let's talk a little bit about fan questions. We have, I don't know how many we have. We had a lot. Eli chose these for us, so we're kind of just he's gonna throw them on the screen, and we're gonna talk about them. But yeah, here we go. First one.
Jeez.
Zach. All right. Do you see Jesus Sanchez as being a potential trade candidate at the deadline if he has a good first half of the season? Isaac, this is your boy. I think out of the position players, you got to say yes. I mean, still has some control left. The power's there. This guy has some of the best raw power in the organization. This is a guy who, any team would like, I guess, if he's having a big first half. I don't know how many teams would say I'm going to plug him in as a starting outfielder, but as a fourth outfielder, maybe a platoon option, face righties. I mean, where do you see this? Or do you think this Marlins just hold on to him?
Personally speaking, I think this is a situation where the player is worth more to the Marlins than he would be in the trade market. I think that if you get rid of him and you're going to roll out an outfield of Kyle Stowers / Troy Johnson, Griffin Conine, and Dane Myers, you're in big, big trouble. This guy is who I have penciled in, not to spoil our later segment, but penciled in hitting third. He's due to make $4.5 million, arbitration eligible, of course. So, yes, any player that is ever going to be arbitration eligible under Peter Bendix's watch is always up for grabs. You have to think that there is a chance that he gets traded. There's another popular Marlin on the 26th man who's expected to be pitching on opening day, who if they trade him, maybe they don't need to trade Sanchez. So it might be a little bit too early to talk about that. If Jesus Sanchez plays his butt off and is just crushing right-handed pitching like he's been known to do, and another team finds him attractive, then yeah, maybe. But to me, he might be that outside the box extension candidate to me, a very affordable extension to me, because I think he's someone that you keep around. He's got that 30 home run potential, and we just haven't seen it all come to fruition quite yet. But he's one of my personal favorites, and he's someone who I think you sort of could build a little bit of an offensive core around.
And I feel like with Sanchi, I mean, if you put him up against just righties with limited left-handed, you don't face many lefties. I mean, the overall numbers would look far, far better than what they ended up looking like last season. I believe he was just under a 100 OPS, which is league average. But I mean, look, you put him against primarily right-handed pitching. I think there's a good chance that the value goes up. And hey, I mean, look, if he does get traded, teams would like to have someone like that who could come off your bench. You go into a big situation against a righty, you go with Jesus Sanchez. But again, I think you're right. I mean, Sanchi is worth more to the Marlins than, for example, a couple of contenders out there. And I think everyone knows where he wouldn't go and where some of these teams maybe wouldn't want Sanchi. So, and he would have a very diminished role in many other teams, and that's the case with a lot of these players too. So, all right, moving to the next question, we have Allie, who says, "Who will be the most enticing trade asset Miami will have come the July trade deadline?" And I think the answer is pretty easy. It's Sandy. Isaac kind of alluded to it. If Sandy's pitching to what we remember Sandy doing these past couple seasons, he is probably going to get a huge haul. It's going to be a very nice haul because he still has to believe another year on the deal after that, plus whatever you're going to get in the trade. And it's a very affordable contract. It's going to go up little by little, but Sandy Alcantara is one of the best pitchers in baseball, and he showed that in 2022. Wasn't great in 2023, but if you get somewhere in between that and what he did in the Cy Young season, I mean, you're going to get a haul. And funny enough, I was thinking about what packages someone like a Sandy would give you, and it's top prospects. You're not looking at what, for example, Luzardo gave you or what a Trevor Rogers gave you. You're looking at like a lot bigger than that, and maybe not quantity, but more quality. And that's, I think, what the Marlins should definitely try to target if you're trading someone like a Sandy.
Yeah, club control through 2026 on a very team-friendly deal. And usually when you do the right thing and you extend your young talent at the right time, like the Marlins did, usually that implies that you're going to keep him through the duration or up until at least the last years. But with the Marlins, this is not exactly a team-friendly deal anymore. He's set to make $11 million. Peter Bendix has been non-committal on him being here in the long run. And I think it would unfortunately just make too much sense to, like you said, Kevin, if he is pitching well, if he's just, on pace for 170, 180 innings, which we know he can do obviously when healthy through 4 straight years of 200 plus or 197 plus innings. He shows that he's still that guy, then yeah, you're right. You can get the king's ransom for him. It's just be a shame because the one time they do extend the young guy, the right guy, the talented guy at the right time, he's still not going to end up a Marlin for life. So it's going to be a tough one to see, but he is probably going to be the crown jewel of the Major League Baseball trade deadline in just 5 months from now or so.
Yep. Alrighty, moving on. one pitcher free agent and one position player free agent each of you would sign.
Whoa.
More realistic scenario. So obviously Pete Alonso and Alex Bregman are off the board in this case. I'll do the pitcher and you could do the position player, but if you want to do it like that, because I wrote an article about some pitchers, and I mean they're not the greatest names by any means, but they're guys who are going to eat innings, and that's what the Marlins need. You know, you're looking at Jose Quintana, who's still on the board. I was able to actually watch him a couple weeks ago in person. Looked pretty good. You have a Patrick Corbin who has been an innings eater, and I know by no means is Patrick Corbin what he was when the Nationals won the World Series or even before that, but it's a guy who's going to eat innings. And this is a guy who's been pitching 150, 170 innings year after year. So that's kind of what you need if you're the Marlins. And maybe it will help go into a more pitcher-friendly environment like Lone Depot to any guy. And that's a guy who could be a 4 or 5 starter, and you're going to be eating a lot of innings. And Miami needs rotation depth, as soon as possible. Last year, you thought the Marlins had enough depth in the pitching rotation, and not really. So, and then they ended up using about, God, it feels like too many pitchers. And they're, I think, in an even worse position than they were last season, where you lost a lot of that depth. A lot of guys were claimed off of waivers or went to play overseas or now in a new organization. It's definitely tough. So I think you've signed a Quintana, a Patrick Corbin. I think a Chris Flexen's still out there. I mean, those are guys who are going to eat innings, and at some point they could be pretty efficient for you. And if they eat enough innings and they're pretty good, I mean, you could flip them in the trade deadline easily. So I think those are some guys I'm looking at least on the pitching side. At position player side, I can't think of a name right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Patrick Corbin to me is that's the guy. That's the guy you get. That's the guy who you choose over Robinson Pena or Adam Mazer right away. Someone that it's going to be 6 shitty innings, but it's going to be 6 innings nonetheless. Team obviously isn't expected to contend. That's the guy that I would be very happy if Miami signed. Position player wise, it's not going to happen. Give me Paul DeYoung. You don't know what it's going to look like over 140 games with Xavier Edwards at short. He still hit 24 home runs last year, I think. Yes, Paul DeYoung between the White Sox and Royals, I think it was. It's someone maybe out of Miami's price range, as sad as that is. But yes, that would be my position player guy.
Alrighty, let's move on. What sides has more camp battles to sort through, pitching or hitting? What side will we see more improvement from early in the spring training? I think that's a pretty good question. I guess you're just talking what battles we're going to see. I think the outfield's one of them to begin with, specifically left field. I think center and right are basically locks. I think it'll be Dane in center, and it'll be Sanchi in right. I think that's kind of where I'm looking at it. Now you're looking at who's going to be the left fielder. You have Griffin Conine, you have Stowers, Derek Hill, Albert Almora could even slide in as a bench piece, and you're still trying to fight for a bench spot too. And it's not just that. Sonoha. I think that's definitely what I'm looking at. I feel like the rotation's a little more locked unless one pitcher gets hurt or, one of them just completely flops. But it feels like rotation somewhere around Alcantara, Weathers, Edward Cabrera, Max Meyer, and Valente Beozo. I think that's kind of rounding out the rotation unless, again, they sign a Patrick Corbin to a deal, and that's different. So I think there'll be more battles on the position player side for sure.
Yeah, on the outfield side, no doubt about it. The rotation, I don't think it's as surefire as we might think. With Max Meyer, personally, you guys know how I feel. I think they need to cut their losses and put in the bullpen right now. But from when I spoke with Bendix in Toronto, he seemed pretty adamant that he is a major league starter. So you got to assume that he's going to get every chance to make the team as a starter. I don't think Valente Beozo is a lock by any means. I think you still have, like you mentioned earlier, Adam Mazer. You have Connor Gillespie. You have Robinson.
Tarnick. They're going to try Tarnick as a starter.
I don't see that at all. I see him as more of a reliever. I know it was
reported
by Just Baseball. More on that later. But yeah, obviously Tarnick, to me, profiles more as a reliever. But
agreed.
You can go with Pena, and then I think there's going to be a lot. I think there's going to be another move or 2 or 3 before, because I don't think they're just going to roll out Valente Beozo as their number 5 starter on opening day. But maybe he has a great spring training and he proves us all wrong. But I think there's going to be just as much competition to round out that rotation and bullpen, as well as the outfield. I think those are the main, because I think the infield is pretty much set. Aside from, first base, there's going to be a little bit of competition maybe, including Troy. But I think, third, short, and second is pretty much locked in stone.
Yep. All right. Both of you should fill out a starting 9 for opening day and an opening And on opening day, who got more correct? So Isaac, I will let you go first. I think you actually have a full lineup. I just set the positions. So if you want to go ahead and I'll let
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go.
Lineup along with positions and
Okay.
viewer
I only have
discretion
the
advised.
positions, so I'll let you do the lineup.
Just be careful. It's not going to be. This is probably one of the more underwhelming opening day lineups that Marlins fans have seen, maybe since 2018 or 2019.
Jeez.
But I think with the first two, you have Xavier Edwards at shortstop, Connor Norby at third, Jesus Sanchez batting third, playing left, Jonah Bride DHing, batting cleanup, Matt Mervis winning the first base job on opening day,
You're beating
batting
it.
fifth. Matt Mervis batting fifth at first. And I was in between two right-handed hitters here, but Dane Myers batting sixth, protecting Matt Mervis in center field. And then you have one of the two, Stowers or Conine, in left field. I'm sorry, in right field, wherever Sanchi is not, batting seventh. Otto Lopez, Gold Glove Award winner in the future, batting eighth. And Nick Fortes catching, batting ninth. That is the opening day lineup for your 2025 Miami Marlins.
We have the same one, so I'm not even gonna repeat it. The only I did put Griffin in left. That was my only difference. And I obviously put Sanchi in right. So we could just move right along. We're basically on the same page with that one, which I'm glad. So, alrighty.
No Eric Wagaman, notably. No Eric Wagaman.
No Wagaman. Yeah, you're right. Hey,
Right,
he could be a bench piece though. So we'll
Right.
see.
No, I do think he will make the team. I'm just looking ahead. It's going to be a right-handed pitcher for the Pirates, and I think they're going to give it to Matt. They're not going to bench Norby or Bride for the likes of Wagaman. So that's the reasoning behind that. But Wagaman should be on the bench at least.
You should all name some sleeper prospects you expect to break out in 2025. This is actually going to be a pretty good question. I'm excited. I think the system is in a much better position. Isaac, I'll let you go first with this one if you want to go ahead.
Not really a sleeper, but someone who I'm very excited. And I know the Marlins are too. Some like him even more than the A-list guy they received in this trade. But Jared Serna, I think, is going to make his major league debut at some point this year. I think he's going to demolish AAA pitching. And I think he's going to hit for more power than people expect. And he's going to, unfortunately, love Otto Lopez. He's going to kick Otto Lopez out of there, or maybe even push X to second and play some shortstop for the Miami Marlins in the big league club. I think he's the guy that you got to keep an eye on. The Marlins are extremely excited about this young player. And around the industry as well, a lot of prospect guys are very excited. So he would be my sort of quote unquote sleeper. And also Joe Mack. Keep your eye on Joe Mack.
Okay. I'm going to go outside of our top 30. I just checked if he was on there. I don't know why I feel like this guy is going to have a decent spring and he's going to go in there and at some point make his debut. Not his debut, his Marlins debut. I'm going to say Graham Pauley. I don't know why I feel like third base could be the home for him. You kick Connor Norby to left. Connor Norby, unfortunately, is just not a third baseman. I think that's pretty clear. The other name I'm looking forward to watching, kind of on this, is Max Acosta, who they acquired from the Rangers. Broke out in 2024. Now it's just a matter of can he do it in 2025? And I think he can. I think he could play a little bit of everywhere in the infield. So that'll be another guy who I think will have a good opportunity to debut, make his major league debut this time around in 2025.
I'm with you. Ooh.
What is a successful season in 2025? So this is outside of obviously including wins and losses, but Isaac, I think when you think about it, obviously you want to see a higher win total. I think anyone does. 62 wins. You want to avoid the 100 losses.
I don't know what the Marlins do.
Yeah. they could still make the lottery for another year. So
Right.
Obviously you want to see, more or less what these young guys could do. If Xavier Edwards could stick at short, I think that would be successful if he could prove that, if the arm strength is there. If Norby could, you just want to see if a lot of these young players could stick at the positions they're currently at. Which ones do you see as a long-term piece? You want to see what your rotation in the minors does at the major league level, because unfortunately, a lot of these guys are going to get traded again at the deadline, and you're going to be seeing a lot of new names nonetheless, no matter what. I think, even you're looking at a successful season, you want to see some of these minor leaguers that are down there kind of move up to the next level. You want to see them show why they were traded for. I think that's the best way to say it. Obviously, any fan wants to see wins, but if you're the Marlins, you want to get another nice lottery pick. Hopefully, better luck this time around. But I think there's many ways you could look at a successful 2025.
To me, it'd be maximizing your returns on when you trade Sandy Alcantara. You have to nail that. You have to. On everyone else that they do inevitably trade, whether it's Calvin Fauché or it's a Jesus Sanchez, you have to nail these trades. And also the draft, have to nail your 7th overall pick. And I want to see at least 2 of these hitters, whether it's Cerna, De Los Santos, Ramirez, anyone that's poised to make his major league debut. Some of them need to have sort of a Connor Norby success at the big league level. That's how I would gauge a successful season. Some prospects succeeding at the major league level, maximizing on the trade returns, and having a good pick in the first round.
All right, final question. Why should us baseball fans continue to support the Marlins and attend their games? I don't blame you for asking this one.
Good question, Kerwins.
Yeah, great question. Isaac, you are the number one guy that says that the experience isn't good. And I agree. There are things that aren't good. I think obviously Miami Live will be something that will enhance the experience and make it better. But right now in 2025, where the Marlins are projected to once again lose 100 games, you're expected to see who knows play when, and who knows if you're going to be seeing a Sean Anderson up at the major league level. Why should you support the Marlins?
There was a time not that long ago, 9 years ago, or no, even more, like 10 years ago, where you were going to a Major League Baseball game in South Florida. You had no idea if it was going to get played or not. You had no idea if it was going to be too hot or it was going to rain. You have Major League Baseball in your backyard, air-conditioned, controlled, and you get to watch, like I said, Marlins baseball. And it may not be a 90-win team, but guess what? You know for a fact you're going to get a game in. And there was a time where we didn't know if baseball was going to survive in South Florida. And now, be it as it may, they are going to be here for a very long time. You're going to see some cornerstone players start the season at the big league level on opening day, like the Xavier Edwards, like the Connor Norbys. Maybe you'll see a top prospect make his debut on opening day. You still have the 2022 Cy Young Award winner taking the ball every 5th day for now. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say it's of course you have to root for this team, because I do sort of appreciate transparency when it comes to the club speaking to its fans. And I don't think that they've done an excellent job at that. But at the same time, if you're a baseball fan and there's Major League Baseball being played right in front of you in South Florida, in Little Havana, I understand the transportation is a little bit tough to get there, but hey, if it's me, I'm just happy to watch any sort of baseball. And there's worse situations out there in the league. I understand this is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, but I think that there's enough upside. Like with an Edward Cabrera, you have no idea if he can unlock something. He's got some of the best stuff in the entire league. You have, like I said, the Cy Young Award winner. You have nasty closer in Calvin Fauché. And there's reason to come support your team. And the food is okay. It's excellent at Lone Depot Park. Their uniforms are cool. You can always buy some cool merch at the store. There's some decent reasons to come support your hometown Marlins, because guess what? The more you go, the more money they have to spend on free agency. So go support your team.
I think Isaac said it best. So I think we'll wrap it up here. I think good questions. Good questions overall. Can't complain. We'll be back in 2 weeks. I think by 2 weeks, we'll have pitchers and catchers done. We'll be probably previewing full squad. Maybe we'll even do it after full squad just so we have that in there. Fan Fest will be over with. Media Day will be over with. And we'll be full on in spring training, previewing what's going to be some interesting games, some interesting competitions, and hopefully some encouraging words from everyone's favorite, Bruce Sherman. So from Isaac Azout and myself, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace out and go fish.